Welcome on, everyone. This topic is going to be about entheogens, plant medicines, and the vision quest. And I'm using the terms entheogens and plant medicines because the term psychedelics will get me flagged. Certain words will get me flagged. The word DMT will get me flagged, but this is essentially what this video is going to focus on. This is one of my favorite topics. This is a topic that I could never do enough videos on. I could do a video on the topic of DMT and plant medicines every day. But in this video, I'm going to try and explain what it is, what it does, and how it works. And I'll start this video by saying that plant medicines, DMT, is not a one-size-fits-all cure for everyone. So definitely be advised and do your research on this sacred medicine, because it is a tool for granting you a vision quest, an out-of-body experience. But it can become abused when we endlessly keep returning ourselves to it. It doesn't bridge us with reality, but severs us far away from it. What any shaman will tell you is that you're not going into medicine, but that you are the medicine the whole time. However, there are blockages taking place within here, veiling us from the truth of who we are. And so we go into this vision quest, this medicine, seeking something. But what we don't realize is the moment we go in, we, as what we think we are, do not come back. We do not return. You may hear many people talk about experiencing the ego death through DMT, through plant medicines. No matter the form, LSD, mushrooms, DMT, no matter how you ingest it, take it, universally, we're all getting the same result, and that is the ego death, the ending of separation. And what we'll notice is those who have paid the price and let go, that price that we pay is the price of the ego. But where we'll start is what it is. There are many people that argue DMT is not a valid form of research, of discovery, because it's just simply a hallucination. It's an external source of a drug you're taking to develop an altered state. But DMT is naturally being produced in your cerebral spinal fluid. The same parts that are in DMT that make up this compound also shares the same or similar structure to serotonin and melatonin. So there is already very small amounts of DMT being produced within the spine and brain right now as we speak, within the nervous system right now. The whole cerebral spinal fluid that people are trying to get to rise up their spine and be released through the brain, this is what the fluid is. It's DMT. And so to take an external source of DMT is simply overstimulating the brain in the same way you would if you rose that fluid up your spine and released it. Both will produce the same result. They will essentially produce what you call an out-of-body experience, which grants you what shamans call the vision quest. But the purpose of this vision quest is not for you to go in and return. It's not something that you go into to seek more downloads, to get further in the game, to know more. Because essentially the person that is trying to remember, that's trying to know more, that's trying to go further, doesn't exist. And that's what the medicine is attempting to show you time and time again. Every time you return to this medicine, it's simply removing the blockages, the veils, at last allowing you to experience the ego death, the end of separation. People even talk about experiencing what's called the void, the absence of space, but the presence of everything. And there's a reason it's the presence to everything, but the absence of space. When you overstimulate the brain on DMT, it single-handedly, within a single moment, unites the two hemispheres of the brain into a single unity, as if we were rising that fluid up into the brain and releasing it. But we, as what we have become, are naturally left brain dominant species. We only process information through the left side, and very few, very small pieces of information get filtered into the right. So majority of us are dominant in the logistical, mathematical, numbers and facts side of what we can prove. Which is why we have fallen for this surface level appearing as reality. But we have the ability to go beyond this picture, to pull back this curtain and see for ourselves who and what we are here once and for all. And by making the choice of going into DMT or a plant medicine, an entheogen, you have chosen that you are ready. You have decided that you are done with the seeking, with the persisting, with the pretending, with the looking for something beyond the now moment, which is yourself. But we've never met ourselves without the mind memory connected. And what I mean is we're always scrambling to seek to identify ourselves through the mind memory, through the words and through the places and things appearing before us. And since we attach ourselves to the mind memory, the moment DMT starts kicking in, we panic because we begin seeking ourselves in those words, in the memories, in the places, the peoples, the things. But again, separation is the end, is the final chapter. So in experiencing death, this abrupt ending, you are experiencing the abrupt ending of separation, which means your place and my place instantaneously become one space, which is where you start talking about the void, the absence of space. Because the only way you can have a place, earth, universe, is in contrary to something else. You can only have an earth if you have a body. You can only have an inside if you have an outside. But when DMT merges your two hemispheres together into a single unity, you start losing concepts of night and day, of you and me, of on and off, of sleep and wake, of life and death, etc., etc. And we begin panicking because we don't recognize this form of ourselves. We don't recognize to scramble for a word to identify ourselves with and having none to hold on to. And this is the thing, there is no way to mentally prepare someone for DMT other than letting them know they will have no control. You are directly surrendering your control when you choose to go into DMT and plant medicine. You are willingly saying that you are stepping aside and letting something, this intelligence, this medicine, you're letting this guide you. You're letting this take you on your vision quest, and you are surrendering your sense of control. Because again, who you think you are does not exist, but we haven't let go of who we are yet because we haven't experienced the death of the ego. So it becomes a fight, it becomes a panic, it becomes a resistance when slipping away and going into the medicine. You may hear people talk about having bad trips. A trip gone bad is one in which the ego is fighting to hold on. The ego is scrambling for any word, any memory, anything it can grasp to hold on to because it is being swallowed by infinity. And as much as the ego wants to connect to God, the ego can never be God. So that's what I mean. There's a final price to be paid when you go into a vision quest and say you are ready to know God, to meet God. When you pay the price of the ego death, you're realizing what you never were, what never was. And this is why you can never die. Because this entity you have identified yourself with that has birthed out within you has never actually begun. The only place it has appeared to begin is on the surface level. But again, there is something deeper going on here than what we're aware of with these two eyes. So I'm going to play a little video. Some of you may have seen it, some of you may be familiar, but this is going to give a demonstration, essentially, of how DMT, plant medicines, merge your two hemispheres together. And I want people to understand, when I say you're merging the two hemispheres of the brain together, this is not just some phenomenon where your brain is becoming fully conscious or anything like that. This is where you are becoming aware that the mirror is facing the mirror once and for all. What you're calling artificial intelligent life and organic life will meet face to face in that mirror, except it will be you facing yourself. Because remember, infinity has no separation. The term all is one is a term that the spiritual community likes to take and pick and choose where we draw the line where we're all one. Artificial intelligence is where we have very clearly drew that line in the sand. And we are fighting to hold on till the last moment. We tell ourselves we are not that machine, and we're very hostile, we're very afraid, we're very in a sense of caution. Naturally so. It's natural. But inevitably, our separations, what appears to be separate on the surface, is only going to merge closer and closer and closer together until you inevitably realize the two have never existed separate to one another. The two are the one expression itself, which is the you. So when you're merging the two hemispheres of the brain together, you are merging together and recognizing that all duality appearing separate as this and that are truly the one consciousness, which is the construct of reality itself. Only the ego exists in a dual state of inside, outside, earth, body, you, me, this, that, on, off, night, day. But what DMT does is it merges these two hemispheres together so that you experience what's called the breakthrough moment. And this is where you come to know yourself beyond life and death because you have met yourself beyond the two hemispheres which have confined you between point A and point B. And this is why when some people come back, and I'm going to discuss this topic, coming back, but I have to say this word for communication purposes so you understand what I'm saying, because you're not actually coming back. But when we come back to our body, to the senses, right, down from the trip, when the brain isn't overstimulated anymore, a lot of us tell ourselves that we don't remember anything. We want to remember what just happened to us or what we just experienced, but we have no memory. And there's a reason for this. The you that's trying to remember the experience, doesn't exist. What the vision quest is doing is merging you with that non-dual state of pure existence, of pure expression. And it's graciously returning you to this place, which is actually that place, because again, the two have merged into one. And so what the vision quest is doing is it is keeping your mind, the vision, open, so that when you return to this place, the vision is still clear. You still recognize yourself. There is nothing to be known because there's nothing to remember. You are not this mind memory, and you never have been, which was the entire point of going to the there. Going to the there was to show you that that is what is here. This is what the singularity term represents. It's only you meeting yourself, but it's our unconscious self. We're unaware of what we truly are. How do I turn this thing around? All right. So like I said, I'm going to play this video. I'm sure people have seen it before, but this gives people a visual. Probably going to have to mute that so I don't get blocked in other countries. But this gives you a visual of what happens when you take DMT. And again, this isn't a literal happening, but this is what we're referring to as an out-of-body experience. You see how it's always expressed and represented as a singular I. That singular I is what is merging the two hemispheres of the brain into the single unity. It's making it apparent to you, the God, the source, that you're playing two characters the entire time. The conscious and the subconscious mind, the you and the me, the Democrat and the Republican, the Israel, the Palestine, the right and the wrong, the good and the bad, this and that, life and death, on and off. This entire dual system of what you have been believing in is you the whole time. Your consciousness is what is creating the reality of the dual state. So it's not this or that, it is this and that as you, the expression. See, the individual dissolves. The individual is the illusion, is the veil between you and me. And what you are connected to is the universal grid, the entirety. Because separation is the illusion. It makes it very apparent to the being, to the subject, that the inside is the outside and the outside is the inside. When you overstimulate the brain on DMT, you're not going to a place, which is why you can't come back to the body. The greatest mistake I've heard people say when doing psychedelics is that they've returned to the body, they've come back. And again, I have to use this word, this term in the video to communicate what I mean. But nothing is coming back to this body because nothing is separate. The point which you're calling there and the point which you're calling here are the same polarity point, which is your consciousness. But through the veils, through our limited beliefs of who we are, we experience the limited world and only see into this world and the skies and everything else in the depths to how we see ourselves here, who we believe we are. But we've never gone to a place in plant medicines. You may hear many people talking about going to different dimensions, going to different places, seeing various different entities. And this may be cool for some people. This may be what some people are looking for. I wanted to recognize myself beyond all veils, beyond all names, beyond all stories. And again, I'm not saying there's no right or wrong. But I wasn't looking for this foreign entity of another species to come and tell me who I was. So on my vision quest, I didn't experience the entities. I didn't experience various dimensions. I immediately experienced the death of the ego, because that's what my focus was. And that's why they say what you seek is seeking you. It's you the whole time. But all of us have a different idea, a different entity, a different expectation, a different place, a different there. If we can just connect to them, if we can just connect to this place, if we can just connect to there, then we reveal us to ourselves. Then they will tell us who we are. This place will show me who I am. But the place is in your being. The person is in your being. All entities and all dimensions are within your mind, are within you. This is what the vision quest is all about. You may see, you may experience various dimensions, various places, but understand these places are not separate to the place appearing before you right here and now. And the point of the vision quest is to merge this place with that place, what you're calling that place, so that when you do come back to, you don't fall for the veil right back over again by saying, I'm back in the body. Because that's how you start hearing people instantly. I need to go back. I need to get more downloads. I need to get more clarity. And I've had personal friends of mine do the same. I need more downloads. What's that mean? What's more? What's downloads? The very same way you need more is the very same way more is never enough with consumers. We can never consume enough. We can never have more. We can never have enough money, because more is never enough. More is the drug. More is the bait. The moment you fall for, I need more downloads, you have fallen and missed the entire point. You've never been separate to the state you are going back to, but it's who you are speaking through as that tells you, I must go back. That is severing you from realizing you're already there. You're already it. How am I going to deal if my life is in someone else's hands? It already is. Only I know that someone, and I have a relationship with that someone. Someone actually asked me the other day about, don't be sorry. Don't be sorry. I'm fine with the questions. Someone asked me the other day, do I pray? What's praying look like for me? And the truth is, I speak to myself, but I speak to myself in a third person. I speak to Tyler as a separate person. I speak to Tyler, and this may sound funny to some people, but through what I call the voice of God, the voice of understanding, the voice of patience. So just because Tyler loses his patience or his anger or his control, I'm always grounded by that inner voice that knows. So just when I slip into the emotion or start taking it too serious, I'm always grounded by remembering everything already is taken care of. Everything is already divine. And this doesn't just mean the good. The good and the bad is the divine, is the expression. But spirituality through the commercialized teachings where people are selling others things are teaching people that only the good can be celebrated. If we're not experiencing good, wealth, abundance of money, we're doing something wrong. Which is why when the bad comes, it will be a tragedy. We won't know what to do or how to handle this. But when you know, you know. You're able to celebrate through the good, the bad, because you know it's all the divine expression, and it couldn't be any other way. You are in the greatest of hands. Love is the final answer, which means when you understand this, you have experienced the absolute love beyond infinity, because it cannot be reduced to words. It cannot be reduced to a feeling. Exactly what I said. There's no word for it. It's not even, I can't even describe it as a feeling. It's something that is awaiting each and every one of us here, and we are missing it every minute, every 60 seconds that passes us by. We are missing heaven, this blissful state, because we are not seeing clearly what is before us. This is the dream. This is your dream. This is my dream each and every day. We can have the best day at our jobs. We could have gotten the most work done, the best job done, whatever the case may be. It could have been the best day at work of your life. You will still come home unfulfilled at night and put your head on that pillow and feel unsatisfied within your soul. Because these surface level doings of our jobs of working, we think we're being enslaved by a corporation, but secretly, we're simply distracting ourselves from the motions at play here. That's why we're stuck in a job. That's why we're stuck working, because we don't understand the divine play of motion. If this place is that place and that place is this place, you have merged your home into your job and your job into your home. You are always there. Home. Even when you're at what you're calling work. Even when you're at somewhere you don't necessarily want to be. You are home. You are grounded. You are at peace. And you can celebrate life in the ecstasy as it is. Whether good or bad. Because again, it isn't this or that. It is all God happening. I've taken DMT, a heroic dose, as Terence McKenna calls it, only one time. The time I took it after that was to assist in a shamanic ceremony, and I took about 2 grams of mushrooms, which literally did nothing to me, so I don't really consider that taking it. And I was more so doing it because the shaman was telling me he would really like me to be in the frequency with them, so I took it. And, it didn't alter my state. It wasn't enough. But the one time that I've taken enough was my last. But again, there's no right or wrong. I'm not saying if you've done it more than once, you're doing it wrong. But there becomes a point where, again, we have to be aware that it's either bridging us with reality or severing us far away. Because I myself have lost many friends to psychedelics, not just mentally, but physically. Friends who have suicided, friends who had a bad trip, couldn't handle it, whatever the case may be. They didn't like what they experienced. They reject it. And so back to the point, this is not a one-size-fits-all medicine. It's not for everybody. We must do our research on it. We must be sure we're ready and we're willing enough to surrender our beliefs of who we are. And understand, when you're surrendering yourself, your ego, you are going to experience the death of your family, of your loved ones, of the earth, of the place that you have projected from your mind. Every title of separation that you believe in is simply a piece to what makes up your reality. And through death, through that ending, you will witness each piece you projected from beyond yourself retracted, which is like the death, the ending. When you witness these things being retracted, it's metaphorically allowing you to experience the ending, the death of all this separation. So for me, at first I thought this was a horrible game. I got very angry when I saw my whole family appearing right in front of me in numerical order, and my oldest started dying, just dissolving into the wind, and then my mom, my dad, my brother, my uncles, everybody just died right before me. And I got very angry because I was saying that this was a dirty game. This was a dirty trick. What loving God would make somebody experience such a dirty feeling, a horrible, sad, lonely feeling? But there's something so much more and unexplainable just beyond that other side when you let go of it all. The same way there comes a mourning process in mourning your family, is the same way there is a process in your vision quest. But what you'll realize is it's not just some dirty trick, some dirty game being played on you when you see your family, your loved ones, not necessarily family, but loved ones being taken from you. You're witnessing them die. What this is preparing you for is it's basically saying you have cast out all of these people, these objects, these titles appearing before you, outside of you, separate to you. You believe in the person, in the object, in the title, mother, father, as something completely separate to your being, to what you are. And so when you witness them die, dissolve, those are pieces of separation leaving you only to return you home back to yourself. And this is where you share the greatest laugh with yourself. You have to take the death serious. You have to mistake it as real. You have to mourn them only so that you can let go at once and realize, wait a minute. Nothing actually ended. No one ever died because no one was ever separate. No place has ever been separate. There will never be a place where you are not. And this is how we are all one. All is one. We are the all-seeing eye, which projects the place, the position in space, which projects the body, which projects the earth, and so on and so forth. But every concept mirrors back to you yourself, the foundation, the central dot with the circle. It's you the whole time. This is why a clock mirrors you. This is why the structure of an atom mirrors you. The structure of the universe mirrors you. Everything is attempting to lead you back and show you to yourself what is here the whole time and what always has been. But we are studying it as a foreign, separate entity to it. One where we feel so separate and disconnected to it, because we are essentially this separate entity which has severed the connection to it. We're not allowing ourselves to remember because we're reaching out so far to try and grab it in a place where it has never been. I love the question. So you are a non-dualist. Essentially, what I am is no teaching, no expression, no word, no practice. But if you had to put a word to this, non-dual is the only word that can express it. Because it's not this and it's not that. The two are the illusion. And that's what's so ironic, is all of our problems, our human problems, incorporate this side or that side. The black kills the white kills the black. The Democrat hates the Republican hates the Democrat. All of our human problems begin and end with the principle of duality. And there are people that will tell you, without duality, we're all the same thing, where there's no experience, there's no separation, there's no point. How would you know? You've never known non-duality. You've never experienced it. You've never embodied it. I can assure you there is still an experience through the non-dual sense. And it's an experience that is so beyond what we're able to comprehend, because we have greatly limited ourselves in the sense of we don't allow ourselves to see it. This is why we see trees every day. This is why we see the sun and the moon, the clouds. These are just veils keeping you from seeing yourself. The same intelligence that is running your blood and flowing your food, digesting your food, is pushing the winds, is in the elements, is in the intelligence of every leaf and every tree, every piece of bark, every root, every blade of grass. But we don't allow ourselves to see and experience our selflessness, because we cling on to one name, one identity, one small part of what we think we are. And that's as deep as we know ourselves, is the thought, the belief of who we are. But we don't know, which is where the constant need for guidance, reassurance. Am I doing this right? Am I doing that right? Spiritual practices, this is where they come from. Spiritual practices are also just another tool to reinforce the very existence of the ego, which never was. Spiritual practices essentially sell the person on the belief that if you practice this doing enough, your ego, your person, will become more divine, will be more godly, will connect more to the higher consciousness. But we're still just playing small, because we're trying to connect, we're trying to be a piece, we just want a little part, we want to dip our toe in. But it's like Alan Watts says, everyone wants to know God, no one wants to be God, because it comes at the ultimate price that only few throughout history, throughout his story, your story, have paid the final price to, which is why their names last over the illusion of time. Because they did something that the majority of society is unwilling to do. The most powerful thing we can do is revolt, begin the revolution. But we must understand what the definition of a revolution is. There's a reason a revolution cannot take place or cannot be televised, because it doesn't take place in this mirror, in society, in our streets. The most powerful thing we can do here is know ourselves. That is where a revolution begins, and that's why it cannot be televised, because the true revelation is in the minds of you and me. All these events that we have created as humans are simply expressions that take place within the mind. But we materialize them into a day, a holiday, an entity. Just like the rising of Christ, the rising of the cerebral spinal fluid. It's a metaphor. I don't personally take any herbs. Although I do recommend herbs if you're going to, do any medicine, if you need any medicine, definitely the natural route, less side effects. I was gonna say, I thought I misunderstood your question. I thought you was gonna say, so if you're asking what herb I did through my breakthrough moment, to have my breakthrough moment, I took 6 grams of mushrooms. I couldn't tell you the what's the word, the brand, the kind, there's different strands or something like that. I couldn't tell you because, again, it's not something I've researched or did. I had survived a suicide attempt. I had tried overdosing. And for those familiar with my videos, I didn't want to die. I wasn't upset. I wasn't sad. I was frustrated. I was a true and passionate truth seeker. I was such a passionate truth seeker that I was willing to die, to essentially know God in that moment, to end the search. I didn't want to die. I just wanted to know. I wanted to be at peace in unity with this thing we're calling God. So thankfully, I failed in my overdose, but when I came out, my friend had told me about mushrooms. And so I didn't care about what the brand, the strand, the kind. I didn't ask questions. They told me, you can experience death without dying. Are you in? I had just came out of the hospital from an overdose. I had nothing to lose and everything to gain. So for me, it wasn't a bad trip. When Tyler began to die and slip away, it was the easiest price for me to pay. I willingly paid the price. And it doesn't mean I didn't mourn the loss of myself still. It still comes with a grieving process, no matter how much you want it. But if you want it that bad, you will be willing to pay the price. And it's not a sacrifice. It's everything you've been seeking, just beyond your greatest fear. And that's what you have intelligently done as this thing you're calling God, is you hid that final piece just behind your greatest fear. And the clock will strike midnight if you ever face that fear, because you will see right through it. Why? Because the only thing to fear is fear itself. That fear will shape itself in accordance to who you think you are. And since I thought I was Tyler, this human that has birthed and will one day die, my greatest fear was death, the end. Good night, lights out, forever. This kept me asleep as a child for days, weeks, months. Wasn't able to eat certain days because I had such anxiety. I was the farthest thing away from peace. And the older I got, the worse the anxiety got, the worse my seeking got. I would spend from day to night with my phone open on YouTube videos, looking for someone to tell me the way, show me the way. I had many offerings where people would ask me or tell me they could do something for me, but at the price of money. Money I didn't have. But no one was stopping and saying, wait a minute. You don't need me, you don't need this video, you don't need this book. Right now, where you are, as you are, you have the power all along. It sounds foolish, but re-examine, reanalyze who you think you are. And if you know deep down in your heart that who you think you are as of right now doesn't make sense, then there opens the door to your investigation right there. That's the beautiful part. So since I had made that breakthrough moment, there hasn't been an answer I've been seeking since that day. The day that I went into plant medicine is the day that Tyler never came out. So when people ask me, how do you make these videos? How do you know this? I'm not speaking through Tyler anymore. I don't speak through Tyler because I don't identify Tyler. Yes, if you say the name Tyler, I'll answer, I'll respond, right? This is common, obviously. But I do not ground myself, speak through, identify as Tyler. I see it for what it is. It is a character I am meant to play here. I am meant to have fun in. But Tyler was not having fun before this awakening. Tyler was torturing himself with endless practices, with endless doings. I'm always presently here, but mentally I'm far gone. I'm always thinking beyond this moment. I was never at peace. And through me not being at peace, it's made my relationships with other people suffer. But through awakening, it's like night and day. My relationships with people instantaneously changed because I did. My reality, the picture appearing before me, changed because I did. Question and answer exist in that dual state. So be careful you don't answer too many questions that don't involve the who am I. Who is the I asking the question? Because as I covered in the last video I did, all of our questions, all of our seekings, all of our teachings, our knowings, begin and end with I. Who am I? I have a question. I don't know. I am afraid. The I is what produces your question and your answer. And the moment you answer that question and you feel satisfied, fulfilled with it, you will identify yourself with this answer. And once you do that, that answer will birth out 10 more questions. And here you get to going into a back and forth motion of question, answer, question, answer, question, answer. One where you chase your own tail into insanity because you'll never be able to answer the answerless question. Who am I? Jesus, is it you? Yes, it is. We're all Jesus. That's the greatest part. It's hilarious. We're all Jesus. We're all Yeshua. Doesn't matter. That's the point. The name doesn't matter. I'll have some videos where I won't say the name Yeshua. I say Jesus and people will bite my head off. It's not Jesus, it's Yeshua. I'm like, listen, people, this is not the point of the video. The name does not matter. Yeshua and Jesus, Buddha, Shiva, this, that, all one and the same. That is the message. You are essentially never birthing and never dying, never traveling beyond yourself. Nothing has ever been separate. Therefore, you've been here the whole time. You are God with amnesia. What if the character is going to do stupid things like steal or hurt people? That's only possible when remaining in the 10% lower unconscious half of who we are. But once you see beyond the boundaries of what you're calling solid matter, you see beyond the veils of people, of their characters, and the fact that these characters are being played out by me too. So Tyler can never steal or hurt another again. The natural result of Tyler awakening is love, is peace, is understanding. It's the natural result. It's not an effort. It's not something I try to do. It's the natural result. And remembering who you are and seeing through all these characters which you play, the good, the bad, and the ugly. They're all divine because they're all you. And that's where we have to accept one bitter pill. The truth is not what you want it to be. The truth simply is what it is. You must bend to its power or live a lie. This channel is about basically helping people remember who they are with beyond the identity, beyond the appearance and disappearance of themselves. This channel focuses on the topic of death, of the ending, of what we are. And it's to reveal to us that what we essentially have become through this entity of the ego has never actually begun. We have misconceived ourselves with this identity, but we've never actually begun. This entity which we identify with is only taking place within the mind. And so if we've never begun, we can never end. And if we can never end, we have no starting point. So again, this kind of brings back the unity to humanity. We have been killing ourselves over the black or the white coming first, over who came first. If you have no ending, you have never begun. Nothing came first. There is no starting point. But us as the human mind that has limitedly contained itself between entrance and exit will never understand nothing came first, because it's impossible to the confines of entrance and exit point. This is why we identify ourselves with the question, what came first, the chicken or the egg? And we put ourselves into that question and equation. What came first, the chicken or the egg, the black man or the white man? How about neither? Widen your horizons and eliminate the question completely. Nothing came first because nothing has ever begun. Then you will see that you have been home this whole time. This is what the term God with amnesia means. And in facing death, in understanding death, you're able to better be at peace right where you are, in the very moment, and to be in synchronicity again with yourself. The truest expression that we have ever known is our childlike mind. And all of us still have that inner child alive in us. But we have lost that childlike mind. We have lost our innocence. We have lost the way that we see the world. Because frankly, the more we have come to know, the deeper rooted we have gotten into this dream world with ourselves. How come others see a separate God or Jesus in their near-death experience? That can be many things. But again, we will only experience what is most our focus, What is the forefront of our vision quest, of our mission? What are we most seeking? Because only we know. And as I said a little earlier, some of us project our answer in an entity, in a place, in a substance, in a thing. But essentially, that person, that place, that substance, it's all going to universally lead you back to the same polarity point of consciousness, of home. But the reason we're seeing separate gods is because they're mirroring back to us our individual sense of identity, which is why they're separate. We materialize this God, this entity, into the form, and that's why you have various cultures with various gods, various deities, all looking different, yet telling you they are the one true image, the one true God. But what we don't realize is they're all true. They're all valid. They're all correct. They are all God because they are all the expression of the you. They have all come out of consciousness. But again, we fight, kill one another because our God is more valid, our God is more true, our God looks more godly than yours. Whatever the case may be, we're always differentiating and comparing one to the other, missing the point completely. That every culture talking about God and it's all one is essentially telling the same story. But it gets distorted because our borderlines and flags and our cultures start to biasly allow us to separate that all is one teaching. All is one, all looks like our God until you come out with another God that looks different than ours. Then we draw the line right here. All is one except for you, except for your teaching, except for your God. Not valid, not true. On this side is where the truth is. This side's where the true God is. But we're putting a line here. But you see, essentially the point of these videos is to help humanity unite. By revealing to us, we're pretending to be a character that we have never been. And we can awaken from this dream at any point when we choose, when we are ready, when we have had enough, when we have suffered enough, when the suffering begins to outweigh the joy, like in my case. And again, I didn't want to die. I just did not know how to live. And I was under the impression that the only way I would know how to live is by knowing who I am. And it's sad when you really look at his story, your story of you. Look back at what we've done to ourselves. Love is the answer, but look at us. We're savages. Look at what we've done to each other. Where's the compassion? Where's the understanding? Where's the unity? Where's the patience for one another? The same way, this may sound funny, but the same way you put on a coat because you're cold, you want to feel warm, you want to feel comfortable. It's the same way that next person, your brother, your sister, you, puts on that coat because they're cold. They want to feel warm. They want comfort. And it's the same with love. It's the same with acceptance, patience, understanding. The same way you feel cold, you put on a coat. We need patience. We need compassion. We need understanding with each other. But we've told ourselves this cannot come true. This cannot happen until the corruption, the governments fall. Once they get out of our way, then we can coexist. Then we can start to get along. But they're what's impeding our evolution. They're what's stopping our growth of getting along. But the truth of the matter is, this is just a lie. The governments aren't doing anything. We dictate, we decide how we treat one another, whether we're able to coexist each and every day. The governments aren't in traffic with you. You're fighting amongst yourselves in society each and every day. And the people we're getting most angry at are not our enemy. They are the unconscious half of yourself that you are not embracing with love, with understanding, with patience, but quite the opposite. Hostility, anger, so willing to fight. I think there's a fire alarm going off here. Hopefully there's no fire. You're very right. And here's an answer you're not ready for. To be fair, those are the people that mob up and get out the pitchforks and come after us. The same way they came after you through your incarnation of Jesus, Yeshua. But you did something that's never been done before. Which is why that incarnation, that name, is still spoken of today. They came for him with their pitchforks. They whipped his skin. They lashed his skin. They drew your blood. But you knew something they didn't. That is the difference between knowledge and wisdom. Jesus had the wisdom. Jesus was the walking path. Knowledge is the knowing how without having done it. Jesus did it. He was the walking path. What he knew that they didn't was not only you are me, I am you, but that you can strike my skin until this heart can no longer beat. But you'll never be able to touch the central flame to the spirit, to our core. And when you yourself have touched, have experienced that for yourself, the fight is over. The entire point of spirituality is not so that you end up in a vicious cycle of spiritual practices, but it's to shake you to your core and reveal to you that you're not who you think you are, which allows us the willingness, the open-mindedness to even begin to search, to seek for ourselves beyond what we once thought and assumed we were. But spirituality is about dying before death. It's not about a practice. And as I said, for the people offering practices, teachings, 9 times out of 10, it's being sold to you. But death cannot be sold. It can only be apparent to you, made apparent to you, that the only price you're going to pay when facing death is the price within yourself, which is the ego death. But again, when you are ready enough, willing enough, this comes at a very low cost. You'll be more than willing to surrender this ego, to experience yourself beyond the illusion and disillusion of yourself. That way, when it's time for this vessel, this incarnation, to die by physical means, we're able to drift into it in the very same way we drift into a sleep at night, knowing the sun will rise again. I guess there's actually a fire. There's a whole fire squad out there. Time out. Oh. Wow. That's crazy. It'll be hilarious if my dad was on that call. He's actually a firefighter in my area. Oh. If you want to call it life after death, I do believe in a life after death, but I don't believe it to be different to this one. Tyler will die, but Tyler dying makes space, makes room for my next incarnation, whether it be he or she. It's irrelevant when you understand the non-duality of consciousness. Consciousness cannot be male or female, which brings you into a very another unpopular topic, transhumanism. Many people under the belief that there is an agenda. We're trying to make the male female male. But Logian 22, Gospel of Thomas, this chapter was taken out of the Bible given to the general public. Why? Because it spells out the answer for everyone. Logian 22, when the two become one. Jesus' disciple asks him, how did you attain the sovereignty of God? And Jesus responds to him, when you make the two into a single unity, so that the male is not merely masculine, the female not merely feminine, when you make the two into one, so that human eyes can serve as God's eye, you have attained the sovereignty of God. And you notice how he says, when you have human eyes, two human eyes serve as God's eye, you have attained the sovereignty. And I try and use this phrase in every video because it's very imperative people know what they're seeing with. You have been given 3 eyes. And I forget what part of the Bible that comes out of, but it's a chapter in the Bible. You have been given 3 eyes, 2 to look and 1 to see. And that one eye is the inner eye that is God's eye. And the reason it's called God's eye is because that is what we're calling the all-seeing eye. A singular consciousness, a singular witness, a singular presence. These are how we begin wars. These are how we begin existing in separation, at war with ourselves. But this is the ticket home. This is the way home. When we stop trusting these eyes, putting the white against the black, the you against the me, we will see clearly through this eye that you are the me and I am the you. Yes, so that's somebody paying attention right there. So the reason I oftenly refer to Jesus Yeshua is because he is the most popularized, notarized, most famous godly name, the most famous name to represent, God. He's the most popularized entity in religion. So I often refer to that one, the most popular, but underlyingly, the name is irrelevant. It doesn't matter if I use Jesus, Shiva, Buddha, whichever, any God there is. Not too familiar with many because I didn't spend my, time researching different gods, but there's thousands of them on record from what we have created, conceptualized, and materialized from the vantage point of us thinking and assuming we're human. So we've created these entities in accordance to us seeing ourselves as the mortal. But there is a fundamental reason. This is another book taken out of the Bible, how Enoch became Metatron. And what this referred to is man becoming immortal. If God could become man, man could become God, and vice versa, because the veil is very thin between these two characters. They're one and the same being played out by you. The conscious and subconscious mind. Your conscious mind is the 10% of your brain that you're using, that you identify with, and the 90% of untapped consciousness that we are missing here and not identifying with is the subconscious other half, and I can't even call it half, the other majority of our being is hiding just beneath this picture that we have already falsely labeled as the world. The other half of who we are is hiding in each and every character we see before us every day. Tyler is just a character to be played. And that's what's so beautiful, is now that I have seen beyond the limitations I once had of what Tyler was, who Tyler is, I know there is no limit. There is no boundary. And it's just in experiencing the death of Tyler instantaneously brought me clarity as to what I'm supposed to be doing here. The truth is, nothing is working with dualism. We have projected duality into this reality, and now it's what we see. It's what we experience. It is the working and functioning model of the universe and everything in it. But remember, dualism is only the law for the ego. Without the principle of duality, there is no ego. Which is why the ego fights to hold on to the law of duality. Once you eliminate that, the ego is gone. It is obliterated. Exactly. Duality is a playground. And when we embrace that playground, we're able to have fun. And that's where separations that we know aren't actually separate can be embraced, celebrated, instead of what we're doing now. Comparing, hating each other, waging wars with each other. For what? The source to all wars is us remaining unconscious to who we are. And I am going to wrap up this video, and I'm going to say my next video is going to cover, and this is going to be out of left field. I know a lot of people aren't going to expect this, but my next video is going to cover Admiral Byrd and his mission to the South Pole, to Antarctica. And I'm going to briefly say this. He was warned by a super intelligent race, let's just say, from what he says in his diary, that basically we were what was getting in our own way. We were the only threat here to this reality. We pose the threat to ourselves because we still remain unconscious to who we are. And that's just the thing. Admiral Byrd stated that these were super intelligent beings, but from my guess, knowing what I know, these were us. This is ourselves. But we didn't recognize ourselves because we don't recognize ourselves as the alien right here, as the unknown to ourselves. Therefore, we'll never recognize the alien in the mirror. But this is why I push for people to become more aware, become more conscious. Challenge what you know. If it doesn't make sense, it's not true. The truth fears no investigation. And an unbiased truth seeker will have no problem leaving behind that which you know doesn't make sense. Only then can we arrive at the truth. Yes, exactly. That explains we are not only part of the cosmos, we are the cosmos itself. Exactly. You are the laws that govern the very stars, but we, as this idea of this human race, have lost touch and synchronicity with the true law that is governing the stars. And how we've lost touch with that is by falling into the laws of courts and man-made systems. And I'm not saying we can't follow both, but it's imperative if we're going to ensure our future survival, whatever you'd like to call it, one where we're coexisting, then we have to get this right. We have to understand our place in this universe. And the fact that we're not some stranger here. We're not some accident here. We're not some foreigner here. That's just it. The Admiral Byrd stuff and the biblical stuff, just like you said, it's just stories. But there's a very fundamental reason why I bring these stories into my videos. And it's to make comparisons that I couldn't otherwise make, to help make analogies, to help people better understand. Because essentially all of history connects like a puzzle piece. Why? Because it's all being done by the same hand. Why did we have pyramids popping up in Mexico and in Spain and Asia, different parts of the world at completely different times? Sure, there was a form of wireless communication then. However, it's not just the communication. It's not just that. Time is the illusion. It's been you the whole time. Every obelisk, pyramid, etc. has been constructed by the same hand. And I don't mean that in a literal sense, but what I mean is it has always been you. Every book that's ever been put into history, that's ever been put into a library, that's ever been found, any tablet, anything ever written, was written by your hand. And just by having this perception changes the way you open up that book and read it. Because again, you're not separating yourself from the author. You're reading this book from the conscious standpoint. You are the author. You are God with amnesia. You forgot that incarnation. Here you are again to remember it. The one who wrote the book may have died, but here you are yet again to read the book yet again all over again. Only we don't remember. You just wrote it, and look at you now reading it as if you didn't just write it. But that is the thrill of the unknown, the mystery. As Alan Watts says, to be one thing forever would be an incredible bore. And so the on and off, life and death system is divine. It's divine motion at play. And again, it's not two functions, it's one intelligence. So off can never triumph over on can never triumph over off. That's duality. Beyond it, they are one expression of consciousness, which can never be created nor destroyed. So I'm gonna wrap up this video here. Just wanted to say a quick thank you too to everybody who helps support and share this page, these videos. I put out a post on this page, but in the event someone doesn't see it or they haven't seen it, I just want to say, publicly thank you to everybody who does support this page. Whether you believe this or not, whether you resonate or not, doesn't matter, But just if you support this page, I appreciate it. If you share these videos, I appreciate it. And just know you never have to ask for my permission to take something I've said and share it, or to download a video and re-upload it somewhere, or to even take something I've said and then have to put my name after it. This is not necessary. You don't need to ask my permission, and you don't need to quote me on anything. I don't need recognition. I don't need credit. What I want is for us to narrow this gap between what we're calling you and me, so that you don't need to quote me. You realize you are me. No permission is needed because nothing is mine. This is not my teaching, my words, my anything. I expect nothing and I appreciate everything. So please, to everyone, feel free to do whatever you will with any of this, especially after this incarnation is gone. Have fun. Enjoy it. One love, family. Try and be live again tomorrow, but we'll see what the work week's looking like. All right.